It says preparing to live stream. And I'm seeing a loading bar.
Okay.
It still says setting up, redirecting to YouTube.
Okay.
It says preparing to live. Okay. Hi, YouTube. We're just setting up for a moment, checking our sound. All of that fun stuff. We can see your chat so that you can ask us questions. And we are about ready. Sat Nam, namaste, welcome. And thank you for being here, all of you. Rob and I have been looking forward to this day for about 3 years worth of working together. She's one of my top students in elemental shamanism. Amazing channel, amazing healer, very naturally tuned in. I'm really, really happy to bring her to you and to announce her journey into the world, because we worked together and she has done her work. She is one who did every single thing that Spirit told her, even when she was raising her eyebrows going, oh my gosh, Pamela, really? Yeah. Yeah. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really, really excited. And I want to share about what this experience was like, not only being initiated by you, but over the last 3 years, because it's like I'm night and day from what I was and where I was 3 years ago when I spoke with you. I don't even know if you remember, but totally.
You've come so far that it would be hard for me to see in that beginning place anymore, honestly,
Yeah.
but I would love to hear your recollection of it.
Yeah, I mean, when I talked to you 3 years ago, it was kind of knee deep in awakening, and that was really, for whatever reason, I was drawn to you, and I literally just went to YouTube and found your teachings. And I didn't know what a channeler was. I'd never heard of the word channeler, didn't know anything about anything, but something in me led me to you and to some other teachers too, but primarily to you. And I started watching and it resonated. And I didn't know why it resonated, but now I can look back and say it resonated from my heart. So it wasn't my mind working and saying, okay, I know these concepts. It wasn't that at all. It was like, okay, this makes sense to me. And it was kind of like I was remembering something. It's kind of like that feeling. And then we did some sessions together and I was just all over the place, kind of chaotic, and I didn't realize that I had so many beliefs, so many disempowering core beliefs. And that's when I really learned about that, because you sort of tapped into it and you told me about some of those beliefs, and my life's purpose. And so I was kind of tapping into that. And then it was kind of like a snowball effect. I sort of started doing a lot of work, and the work has never stopped. And none of it is easy, but by all means, like it's not like sitting home and watching Netflix and throwing back a drink. You don't. It's nothing to do with that. You have to shift your life. You really do, and it's worth it. And that's when it started 3 years ago. And then since then, you and I have spoken a bunch of times, and it just got deeper and deeper. And I really valued your teachings to take me deeper, because the inner journey is like an obsession for me now, a really good obsession, but I just wanted to get deeper and deeper. And it's kind of how it started,
Mm,
you know?
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
You've come a
so,
long way on that journey.
yeah, absolutely. And it's like, it's nice because no one's going to do it for you. It's not like and you never told me what to do either. It's not like that. Like your sessions weren't about that. It was just, it's almost like it's tapping into the soul level. So it's not, so maybe a lot of people have a misunderstanding of what you do. It's not telling you your future or this is going to happen. It's really how to align to your soul's path, how to align to your truth. And it's a very personal thing, and there's no right and there's no wrong. You just sort of kind of pushed me onto my path. Like you just sort of made sure that I stayed there too. And that's kind of what happened. And then as I was doing that, I started sort of helping other people, because that's what happens. You automatically want, kind of like what you did, you devoted your life to this. And slowly I was getting out of the corporate world, and then, you know, sort of shifting on to this world of helping others. And it just happened really, really gradually until now I'm devoting almost full time to this. And it's natural, it's not forced. You don't fight it, you don't push it, you don't resist it. It has nothing to do with that, you know?
Yeah, that's so many people ask me that when they sit before me as students. They ask me, how will I actually be able to do all of this work that you're giving me? Because it is work. And you
Yep.
will be doing work in between your sessions with me, just as Robina did quite a bit of it. And what I love about working with you and working with a lot of people in elemental shamanism specifically is that we do something that's very alchemically natural to finding the way that you work with others, not the way that I, as an elemental shaman, was initiated to work, but to try to find your unique connection to source so that that can be extended so deeply from yourself into others, not just from, okay, I'm a shaman. So now let's pay reverence to our ancestors. Now let's do our callings. And
Yeah.
now let's honor sacred gifts and receive them. There's a lot of that. However, there are specific ways that she and I work together, and that I work with many people, not just shamans, to find their unique abilities. And what I loved about you, I've only met one other person who had callings into elemental shamanism in such a unique way that you have a connection to Vedas. And some of our guides were similar. And I had no idea that that was going to be the case until I sat before you maybe 3 sessions in. I'm going, oh my goodness, why are we connecting to guidance from the Vedas? Why are we talking to Agni? Why are we talking to Indra? Why are we talking to Shiva? And as a natural channel, it's really important to understand that when someone sits before me, my role is an activator. So your natural gifts are going to come through, much like hers did, in a way that would cause your unique connections, your unique guides and ancestors and guardians to come forth. If you're a medium, it'll be your spirit handler. If you're a channel, it'll probably be your angels if you work with angels, or your dominant spirit guide if you have a dominant spirit guide, your higher self, for standard clairvoyance and psychics. There's so many different abilities that we work on together. And what's fun about it is I didn't have to say, oh yeah, you know what, Robina, you're going to be a channel now. You're going to be an elemental shaman now. We developed that together naturally, going, hey, how do you feel about this guide over here giving you this calling? And if you were to use it as a shaman, how would you use it? How would you feel about it? And then practice it and come back to me and tell me how it felt. And it
Yep.
naturally developed that way.
Absolutely. So it wasn't like you were teaching me, do this step one. It's not, it wasn't that at all. It was just giving me those kind of like the global suggestion and then go to it and trusting that I know what to do. And I don't know how to explain it, but I just knew what to do. So every time we would, stop our session and we would have maybe a month break, I knew exactly what to do. And it's not because I'm extra special or anything. It's only because I've done the work to clear. And when you clear your vessel, you absorb the knowing and the knowledge from your higher self. So it's really tapping into my higher self, feeding me what I need to know, and then I knew what to do. So if you told like you sent me my sacred drum, which maybe it's up there, you can see it.
Yeah.
And you didn't explain what to do. So it's not that. This is not that kind of a thing. So just so people understand, you will know what to do with it. So when I got it, I sat down on my bed and I heard it being played before I started playing. And it's only because I was so tuned in, and it's also from your teacher also. So you were explaining me once that elemental shamans, they receive their drum from their teacher, and there's something really special about it. So I started playing the tune that I was hearing, and it started helping me. And
Yeah.
because everything has a consciousness, I tapped into that consciousness. And then the elements of fire is really huge. So what I do is I literally burn the beliefs. And it's very powerful while chanting certain mantras from
Mm-hmm.
the Vedas.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just I just simply knew what to do. I
Yeah.
just knew what to do, and then I rolled with it, and then you use your own imagination and your own space of wonder and creativity, and then do your own spin on it. And it's all about trusting those. So by the way, it took a few years of work before, I met my teacher who then suggested this. So this wasn't something that I thought up and I thought, well, maybe I'll do elemental shamanism. It's really when you're ready, then your teacher appears, right?
Yeah, it is.
Hmm.
And elemental shamanism is a unique type of shamanism that calls forth the elements, the fire element, which Rabina's specific guide for that is Agni right now, but she calls in from many, the water element, the earth, the ether and the cosmos, the light and the sun. So many elements that are even beyond that, like wood and metal and things of that, which stem from other elements. And then the ultimate element that holds it all together, which for those of you who saw my Leonardo da Vinci channeling, you will know what I'm about to say. That element is called proportion. So that is kind of a big container for all of the other elements because of the universal laws and entanglement. It works that way that no matter what element you feel called to use with a client in elemental shamanism, that you are guarding and protecting such sacred rights that have been passed down throughout time and honoring the ancestors and the custodial guardians of the land and the water and the air. um, and it's just very powerful what she does, and she instinctively knows. And from what I remember about you, you started out incredibly much more of a channel. And
Yeah.
it was coming in these downloads, which a lot of people have kind of a misperception about shamanism, that you have to see, that you have to hear. You know what I'm going to say, because I remember telling you this many years ago. You don't have to see and hear or feel anything right away. What you
No.
need to do, if you are coming in as more of a telepathic channel, if you are coming in a way where you get downloads of awareness that are more about cognizance and knowing,
Yeah.
that knowing comes in the form of a thought download, or it could look like a daydream, a couple of words just sort of fly by very quickly,
That's right.
in the precipice of your mind somewhere, like a chalkboard that someone wrote something on, and then poof, it's gone. And what
Yep.
I do is teach you how to slow those downloads down, because contrary to popular belief in spiritual community, clairvoyance, clairaudience, and clairsentience are not the top three psychic abilities that are prevalent in most people that has sat with me for the past 20 years. What's
Mm.
prevalent is precognizance and claircognizance. That's knowing something in advance, which isn't a fun gift, actually, precognizance. It can feel a little nasty. It can
True.
feel a little yuck. And claircognizance means clear knowing, where you get a very clear yes or no, or a discernment about character value systems, about intentions from yourself or another being.
Yep.
You just get a very, very instinctive knowingness. And it
Yep.
doesn't start out going into clairvoyance and clairaudience and coursing through your body in the way that physical mediumship works for me specifically. I had to teach her in a way that was common for 80 to 90% of society right now being born in this era. So what
Right.
was that like for you, going from not seeing and hearing and feeling to wide open gifts now?
I mean, I I was telling someone the other day, first of all, I'm ridiculously happy. It's actually really funny. It's every day, like a couple days ago was my birthday, but every day feels like my birthday because it's like something opened up in me and I can't explain it into words unless someone gets it. It's that knowing. It's that knowing, and it's exactly what you said. I do have the ability. I have seen spirit a couple of times, like with these eyes, but it's more of a knowing. So if someone comes to me, it's a very clear yes. It's a very clear no, and I know exactly what they need to do to get on their path. There's no gray area with me. It's really, you got to do this. So sometimes it's a little frustrating because I can't make someone do something. And yet I know if you just do this, your life's going to be really great. You're this close to being on this amazing path. But it's like, actually, this is beautiful because you told me on, I think, our last session, you said, you know what, you'll never have to talk to me again. And I thought, why? And it's true, I don't. I don't ever have to really talk to anyone. And guess what? I also never have to ask someone, what do I do? Because the connection with my higher self is so clear. It's so clear, and it's getting clearer by the day too, that I know the best path for myself and others. And it's just about developing that ability, and anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. Because 3 years ago, I had none of it. It was just clouded, kind of a tornado of thoughts and beliefs and emotions, and very heavy emotions. And so I had to take time and use a lot of patience to clear it and to tap into that. So you have to be patient. And I think a lot of people are not patient, unfortunately. Some people that I see are a little bit lazy. So they think that just by talking to me, or maybe just by talking to you, that they're going to be fixed,
Yeah.
that their problems are all going to be taken away because we're going to magically do something. We're just going to pluck
Right.
whatever it is out. And it doesn't work that way. You actually have to do the work,
Yeah.
you know?
But what is going to happen with you coming through the archetype of an activator, much like me, when people sit before me as a mentor, their gifts become activated, whether they like it or not. That's the operative part right there. It's going to be uncomfortable. Everyone thinks it's going to be kind of this beautiful glory experience. And what it ends up being is a lot of emotions and a lot of core belief mastery, a lot of emotional integration, a lot of anger and frustration and sometimes joy and exhilaration. But when you work with a catalyst and an activator, whether it be myself or Robina, you're going to experience that. And then you're going to have someone guide you through it with compassion. What I love about Robina is that she is incredibly compassionate, despite the fact that what she's telling you to do as a shaman and as your guide will be probably some of the hardest stuff you've ever done. It will also be some of the most life transforming stuff you've ever done. Some of the ways to open up to your purpose, to open up your own abilities, to activate yourself so that you're more present for others. If you're looking to become a teacher of it, this is some of the stuff that she's going towards as well, and helping people activate and uncover their abilities. So how are you feeling as an activator and a catalyst? How are you feeling and your comfort levels right now as a shaman in those roles when you're working with people and people are resistant and they don't want to do the work? How are you handling that?
You know what? It's kind of what I teach. I teach total acceptance. So if they're not ready, then they're not ready, right? But what I'm there to do is plant that seed. And if it's not going to grow today, it'll grow later on. And that's okay because like you said, sometimes when I do a session, the other person's going to think, well, she's just talking. Oh, I guess it makes sense. But there's a lot going on in there. There's a lot going on in the vibration of the tone of my voice and what my intention is in the background. And what I also do is I ask to connect to the higher self of the client and also their spirit guides in mine, and use me just as a vessel for information to flow through. And so that's really what I emphasize. And you know, I've had some rave reviews so far. Like there's a lot of people that are really just amazing who come to see me, who are already really on an amazing path, but they've really profoundly shifted their life just in a few sessions or even a couple of sessions. So it's beautiful. And my goal is I want them to take it forward and to teach other people and to pass it forward. So this is not my information or your information. You've passed it to me and I'm passing it to everyone,
Passing the stick. That's the way of the
That,
modern shaman, by the way, so that we all are bringing forth all the gifts and wonderful things from our elders and bringing it forth to our children and our loved ones and to anyone to whom it's willing to be received.
absolutely. And
um,
what I'd love to talk to you about is people have this perception that, because whenever I tell people, yeah, I'm an elemental shaman, they say, oh, so have you taken ayahuasca? Have you been, in the jungles? You don't have to. It's hard to explain to people that you don't really, if you want to and you're called to do it, yes. It's very popular now to take stuff to force that journey. But guess what? You don't need to. You can actually use the elements. And I would love it if you could explain that maybe a little bit better than I can.
Yeah, I am a drug-free shaman, psychotropic free. I do love plant medicine, and there are some occasional times where I feel guided towards talking about plant medicine with people, but primarily in a non-psychotropic manner. So there are so many other types of plant medicines that people have forgotten about that are just as powerful if used from an initiated shaman that can be wonderful. And when you're working with someone who has that background, then you're going to get some of that. When you're working with Robina, you get a lot of connection to the alchemy of your own emotions, to the alchemy of the birth and destruction of your own creative belief systems. You're going to get a lot of work with a true goddess energy and the divine feminine. You're going to get a clear conduit channel. You're going to get a lot of, I don't like the word guru, and neither does she, but we do love the word master in terms of the master helps the student in their own mastery. So I don't set people free on YouTube and introduce them to the world unless I firmly believe that they've mastered their abilities. And this is someone that I highly respect and trust. And I've had students go through my program in 3 months, 6 months, 11 months. You could be incredibly dedicated and go straight into mastery for 3 whole years like Robina here did. You can do it in whatever way you want. It depends upon how comfortable you are and how dedicated you are to your practice. If you do all the work, I've seen people do it in 6 weeks. I remember, I think it was Wolf Medicine. You know, you can Google him. He's amazing. I went through 3 sessions with him and he was initiated in 3 weeks. That's like the most amazing shaman that I've ever worked with. And Robina's right up there. She took her time with it, but she's right up there in the same category of mastery and elemental shamanism with true reverence to the custodial guardians of the lands and the waters and the skies. So I just get incredibly happy to introduce elemental shamans when I can initiate one of them fully into their mastery and introduce them to you. Being that I don't do it anymore, I don't offer it anymore. This is my way of saying, okay, and here are my best students that have really, that just shine so brightly in the world right now. So I'm just so happy to introduce her to you. And I did not take any medicine to get to shamanism.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that my grandfather ever did was blow tobacco into my lungs and dance around the fire and say, "Do you accept this now?" And a little feeble 13-year-old yes came out of my mouth. And I had no idea what that meant. And when you say yes to shamanism, it completely changes your life. And one of the people watching here today is asking me a question to ask you, if you don't mind,
Yeah.
about how your commitment to elemental shamanism changed your life. How did mentorship change your life, and how has this worked for you?
Absolutely. Before that, it's funny. I was looking for something. I was still coaching, but I felt like I was missing a link. There was something that was missing, and it wasn't outside. It was something that it still needed a little bit of work inside and a little bit of trust, I think. A lot of it was trust and belief in myself. And when we went through this process, it sort of unblocked that. And that's kind of what happened. And so when you started talking to me and you talked about, the things that would resonate with me in particular, and especially when you talked about the Vedas, I'm very big into mantras, especially Sanskrit mantras, Gurmukhi mantras. It went along with my Indian background and everything too. And it just literally, I just feel like I skyrocketed and it opened up a whole other world. And because of that, the people who resonate with that also walk into my life very effortlessly. So I don't really go searching for clients and that kind of thing. In fact, I put no effort into anything in my life, to be honest, because I don't believe in effort. I think that I just have so much trust. And it starts right here because I have so much trust. Everything I do is more like inspired action. So when I do my videos on Instagram, none of it is forced. It's just when I feel it. And you taught me that too. And at first I was a little scared to do videos and all of that. I wasn't really comfortable with all that stuff. But then when it felt right to me, I did it and there was no rush. And if it would take the next 10 years, it would take the next 10 years. So I don't force or fight or resist anything anymore. I literally just go with the flow and whatever's meant for me comes, whatever's not leaves. And it's just a very easy flow. So it totally changed my life in terms of the trust I had for myself. And as everyone knows, your entire reality is just a mirror of what's happening inside and how you feel about yourself.
Mm.
And so if your reality is a little wonky and there's chaos and you don't like your boss or your parents or your partner, don't do anything there. It's all the work is here, and that's just going to settle itself as it will, you know?
I love that because that is something that's incredibly hard for me as a very structured being, falling under that Taurus archetype where I'm like A, B, C, D. And then spirit likes to bring people into my life that shake it all up and go, yeah, no. Yeah. So you
It's true.
one of those
But it's
people.
hard. It's hard to resist. It's hard to stop controlling. It's really hard to do.
Mhm.
When something doesn't work out, you want to force it and you want to fix it. But it takes practice. And so what I recommend for everyone is to use your everyday as practice. So when you're talking to customer service on the phone, there you go. That's spiritual practice when you're not getting your way.
Mhm.
That's where you do the work. It's great to meditate. Nothing beats that. You should, but I think it's better to use your everyday as its spiritual practice.
Yeah. Yeah, from this point. And it was easier to a certain degree, or at least we would like to believe that it would be. Going back into our lineage, where I remember sitting in ashrams and sitting in caves, going into deep meditations and receiving all my initiations quietly with all my elders around me. And in this age of the modern shaman,
Yep.
it doesn't quite work out that way, right? So
No.
your house is your ashram, and your neighborhood is your spiritual community. Your
Yeah.
body is your sacred temple, and your own spirit within you is your ultimate guru. And the way that I specifically trained Robina was to understand that sound is her guru. She loves sound, she loves frequency. She is a master at managing her own vibration so as not to put so much effort on the external world, because in elemental shamanism, what we teach and what we all believe is that external circumstances are neutral. And when you begin to place meaning and value creatively upon those circumstances, whether they be, your loved ones or your home circumstances or your financial abundance circumstances, your bodily health circumstances, it's all neutral. Those are constructs. The body is a construct of the mind. The mind is a construct of the soul, and the soul is a fractal of a construct of God that belongs to spirit, which is everything. So when you see a circumstance, as opposed to, jumping in and going into a process where a shaman would say, here is the belief coming from this specific time in your Akash from a past life, or this specific time from this life in your Akash. Robina doesn't specifically, much like me, she doesn't specifically work with the Akash because in an elemental shaman's belief system, working in the past is the ultimate stagnation. So would you like to talk a little bit about how you've experienced that and how you work in the concordant records and now?
Yes, and maybe a lot of people have not heard of this word concordant records, but
Yeah.
that is, for me, it's really your best now. It's not yesterday and it's not in 5 minutes. It's all about now. And so what I do is tap into their best now, and everything is based on anchoring to the now. And there is no use in going to the past. It doesn't matter. So I'm never concerned with what happened when you were 10, what happened when you were 20, and that incident and who did what. It's not about that. The only thing I want to know is what belief got you there. What belief invited that situation to you? That's it. That's all we need to know. And if we can tap into that belief, clear that belief to become a clean slate, then the energetic pull to the past, it dissolves. It just
You're
really
getting so many confirmations on this, by the way, and I'm really loving that we're talking about this. It makes me very excited because I want to bring a new type of shamanism to the world. Not that anything is ever new under the face of the sun. However, it seems to be ancient and forgotten. It seems that the true mystery school teachings that Robina brings, as initiated through myself and I initiated through my elders, it seems that they have been forgotten in lieu of a type of shamanism that binds you to sort of an activation of continual stagnation, death, and anchoring in from past lives. And
Yeah.
not that I don't want to say that the past can't be relevant, because in your belief system, if you make it relevant, in that moment it becomes relevant. But I can tell you that it can also be your torture. It can also be the bane of your existence. It can also be the biggest weight pulling you down, the biggest anchor into the sea when you're trying just to float up and take a breath, emotionally speaking. And it can anchor you into perpetual cycles where you believe that that negative belief pattern is going to perpetuate into your now forever and ever and ever. So
Right.
it's really quite dangerous in the brain to continue to activate from the past, because this activates the ego, and the ego is a construct of the mind. The mind controls the body construct, which makes you sick. So, and it can also make you healthy. So what you're choosing when you're operating from the past can be a construct that keeps you there. And if your past was beautiful, so be it. But keep in mind that all of the ancestors are in reverence to you now. It's not you looking to them and venerating them and bowing to them and looking up to the sky and looking back into the beautiful records of what you were. They're actually coming through you now, not
Absolutely.
vice versa. So they're coming through you to learn from a brand new perspective. They don't want to talk about all the ways that you mastered alchemy in the past. They want to talk about a brand new way to master alchemy again now.
That's
So
right.
how deeply you make it relevant, if you're not incredibly cautious and discerning, the past can be absolute karmic torture.
It absolutely can. It can. I completely get it, and I see it all the time. You said something that reminded me of some of my clients. They say they pray to other people. They pray to, let's say, some sort of being, a Krishna or something like that. Praying to something, someone else, it's a very disempowering thing to do, because as someone who sees with your eyes and everything, Christ conscious beings, they bow to you, don't they,
They
when they
do.
see
They
you,
bow
right?
to me. And
Yeah.
what I do is I actually, when I'm bowing to humanity. So
Yeah.
my degree of humility is towards humans. It's never, when you see me bowing, when you see me satnaming, it's always to the sound guru within me and to the human beings with whom I'm sharing a creative experience.
That's right.
So yeah, I have never seen a venerable being, an ancient, come in and ask for me to honor them with bowing or prostrating myself. Like, I have not once seen that happen. And as a matter of fact, what I've observed so far as a channel of Christ conscious beings is that they will say, please do not pray prayers of supplication. So what they mean by that is, no, please give me this, and oh, please, do that, and oh, please, remove me of my pain. And prayer isn't necessarily about mercy. It's about asking for presence of compassion to enter your being. So
Yeah.
it's something that we have been taught against, that we are to be against being self-loving and compassionate to ourselves. Our society has highly programmed that. And what I love about working with Rubina and working with elemental shamans is that they will pull you into how to be compassionate for yourself, how to meditate, and how to connect to your inner guidance, and how to understand that you're at the same level of all these other beings. And oftentimes, because you're the one in the body, you're not going to like this, but it might be you that's at a higher level. You simply
Yeah.
haven't remembered yet.
Absolutely. It's all about, if you want to pray to someone, pray to the God within.
Mhm.
And if you want to ask for help, ask your higher self for the divine guidance and divine whispers. But it's there's a lot of fear energy if you're praying and saying, please give me this, I need this, please cure me of this disease. That's fear. So
Yes.
that's more fear, and that's more fear, and you're just going to grow it, and it's going to get out of control. So it's it's all about what belief got you there, invited that disease. Why did you manifest it? Go deep in there, and no external person's going to do that for you. There is no healer that's going to go and magically do it and send something. And if anything, they can work with maybe your higher self, but it's all about a co-creative process. So
Mhm.
no one is going to do it for you. There is no Krishna that's sitting there that's going to magically take away your disease. If
Mhm.
you've been cured of something, it was never that. It was your own power that you dissolved that, whatever you were holding on to that blocked that area, that energetic area, you
Yeah.
know?
So
So,
we're asking your name. So I am typing that out so that they can Google you. Now there's two D's in there. I remember now. Of course, Google's trying to autocorrect it right there. We're not going to do that. There you go, guys. It's robinadensa.com, ROBINADHINDSA. Notice a bit of a tongue twister there. Yeah, you can find her Instagram as well at IG_Robina, ROBINA. And she does a lot of connection via live videos on Instagram there. And you can learn a lot more about how she gets into what it's like to work with her. And I would like to spend these last few minutes talking about that, what it's like to work with you, and how you get into your sessions with people, and what it might be like from a client's perspective to work with you and to work with an elemental shaman, what that looks like. And I'm also inviting YouTube at this point to go ahead and put your questions for Robina about her work and about elemental shamanism there in the chat section, because I'm watching and waiting. We would love to connect with you for these next 10 minutes before we have to go. And also, any questions that you have about being a student in my mentorship program. I have stopped readings as of March 15th. I'm no longer taking clients for readings. However, for the next year to year and a half, I will be working specifically one-on-one in my mentorship programs to offer my quantum alchemy sessions, and to offer quantum alchemy certifications, to offer elemental shamanism in terms of people who need it as a client, or they need to be certified in it because they feel the call, both not just to shamanism, but the call to be a channel, the call to be a clairvoyant, the call to open up your gifts based upon your unique creative contracts and your unique life purposes, missions, and alignments, which we will find out when working together. So there is a link in the description of this live stream that can give you a lot more access to that. But let's go ahead and start answering their questions. Any questions about what it's like to mentor with me, about my mentorship program, about working with Robina, and about elemental shamanism? We're open now. The first question here from Helen says, can anyone be a shaman? Can anyone develop that skill? How do you feel about that?
I think absolutely. Absolutely you can. But like I said before, you have to do the work. You have to do the work. So if you're not doing the work, then no, that just means no today. But get on that inner journey and clear your vessel and do the stuff that I tell my clients and guide them to do. Absolutely you can. Anybody can. Anyone can do anything, for sure.
Yeah, I believe that in this case, for me as an elemental shaman, I had to really trust my teacher. I had to trust my master. So when my master said, you know what, you are now doing intermittent fasting, I have to do that. That came into my world. Yeah. It comes randomly, where it's like all the masters will say, now it's time to fast. Now it's time to purify. Now it's time to release beliefs about your emotions. Now it's time to this. And when a teacher comes in and they can hear your guides directing you in that way, it's really good to lose resistance and to have an ultimate trust that you feel a connection to a guru, a shaman, initiator, your teacher, your master, whatever you want to call it, your mentor. It is about that. It's about your trust. And I noticed that one of the many things that made Robina a successful shaman is that not only did she trust our connection together, if I told her to do something strange, she actually asked me questions. It's very important. You're not giving over your sovereignty to your teacher or your mentor or your shamanic initiation master. You're not doing that to your elders. What you're doing is you're able to say, okay, I'm going to do what you say. However, I can question everything, and I am. So when you stop questioning, then, that's the part of metamorphosis guiding you from cocoon to butterfly pretty much halts at that point in time. So I encouraged her to question everything that I told her, absolutely everything. And she did.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it's all about the trust you have in your teacher. And that's really key. So whoever you choose, just make sure that you trust them and you feel that connection, and everyone knows what connection feels like, and it's all about that. And I remember once I asked you, I said, how do I know I'm not making this up, right? And you said, all you said was, because you're not. And it was not more than that. But I knew right then and there, and then I started even being clearer. So it's not that Pamela's waving a magic wand or something and opening. It's very subtle. It's very subtle. And like you were saying before, I do get those images almost like it's a chalkboard. I can see something and then it fades away. And it never happened before like that. It never happened. So, and it's
And
getting
it got
more.
more. The more you actually did your initiations and did the work that your guidance coming through me asked you to do, the deeper those abilities became. And now you went from all of that to pure clear channel where you have clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, you're a physical medium. You have so many abilities that open when, you know, prior to all these activations, you weren't sure to believe, but you also took that step. You're willing to say, okay, if my mentor says it's happening, I've got to believe it's happening.
Yeah.
You know, because in the meantime, your mentor is seeing all of these shifts in you. And if you keep saying, well, because I can't evidence it, I'm not going to go forward, you can be your own block, you know, to open your abilities, you know. Let's see, some people have some more questions. What is elemental shamanism? We will let the initiated elemental shaman take that over.
You know what's really funny? I didn't know what it was either. So when I had a session with Pamela and she said, you know, you'd make a great elemental shaman, I thought, oh, like in the jungles, like a shaman in the jungles. I don't know. And it's not that at all. It is someone who recognizes the God within, in yourself and in others, and they use the consciousness and the spirit and the energy of the elements to go deeper and to, it's almost like it's kind of a group. It's not me that's helping the person. It's the consciousness of fire. It's Agni. It's the elements of the Vedas, and that's powerful in itself. The chanting and the element of air and water. It's all of that to go even deeper, to know yourself, to know your God within, and that's what it's all about. And it's not about some sort of, I don't know, because I want to see something and because I want to hear something. It has nothing to do with that. It's not even that I want to help the world. It never started off like that. It was always about me. And it's always about you and tapping into your God within and understanding that you are all that is. And that's to me what elemental shamanism is.
Yeah. To me, and everyone finds their own meaning to things. You remember, you're creating the meaning and the value for all titles and alignments and missions and goals and everything that you do here. We're not we're not a verb. You know, we're not our actions. We're not our titles. We're not our missions. We're nouns. And we're not even pronouns. We're nouns. So I would like to go deeper into that, because working with elements as demonstrated by the Vedas goes way back into many galactic experiences from even beyond human knowledge, from beyond human history. So these are custodial guardians of time. And these guardians guard the records of the now. So the guardians that she works with specifically open the portals of your highest potential, your highest and best for your contracts now, which there's nothing more powerful than that. And that's why I love elemental shamanism, because you're combining elements. It's very alchemical. And alchemy is simply taking one element that is perhaps in your belief system less favorable and trying to make it more favorable for your contracts, more comfortable, much more mastery, much more success, and much more accessibility to grace. You know, ultimately speaking, shamanism is about forgiveness, trust, acceptance, allowance, flow, and inevitably grace. So when you're accessing all of those elements, these are the elements from the Vedas that are the constructs of all of the gods and goddesses and ancients and custodial guardians that you now venerate in all systems. How powerful is that?
Oh, it's huge. And I got into the Rig Veda, and it's really the handbook of humanity. Everything is in there. It is so powerful. And you know, I'm very big into mantras in Sanskrit, and it doesn't matter if you understand what they mean. It's how you say it. It's the pause, it's the gap. There's a lot of power. It's where your tongue hits your palate.
Yes.
There's certain meridian points. It's very, very powerful. I can't stress it enough.
Yeah. Yeah, hundreds of meridian points. I believe about, what is it, 184, 182, or 184 in the roof of the mouth alone, not to mention your fingertips. And so many meridian points that you're tapping upon when you work with the element of sound, which is why a lot of times, because I also am very Vedic, I do attract musicians and artists and people who are also very connected to divine sound current, very connected.
Absolutely. And in my sessions, I often prescribe, almost like a doctor would, I prescribe mantras and I give them a mantra. It's a gift from me. And I ask them, I would like you to memorize it and whatever it takes, like whether you have to listen to Deva Premal or Sanat Omkar or whatever it is, immerse yourself in it and start saying it. And your journey is going to get way, way, way deeper.
And you know what I did with that? Whenever a lot of my masters were giving me ancient mantras, I would just Google mantra interpretation, and then the mantra itself. I would type in, whatever mantra it was, and type in mantra interpretation in Google. And what I noticed came up with spiritvoyage.com, who I love very much and support.
Oh, I love it.
And they have amazing interpretations. And then they'll give you some directives from some of the gurus that initiated such mantras and some of the historical background and spiritual lineage information, and so much that you're getting into, so much information. And then the transliteration. So it's not just if you're singing in Sanskrit, it's way different. And as Robina said, it's not just about what you're saying, but it's about the gaps in between the sound. So when you're working with someone that understands the Vedas and the elements through which sound arises, it's very important. This is what I love about her, is she has the love of the mantra, the love of the divine sound current. That is one of the most powerful ways to access grace on this planet currently. And the top way that I, as an avatar, have accessibility to grace is through sound and through allowance, forgiveness, and compassion. So it's the ability to see all things as innocent. So you can start out working with someone like myself and Robina, and have the hardest problem. You could be the angriest person. You could be the darkest, most depressed person. You could have full-on anxiety attacks. I've worked with people who have agoraphobia. I've worked with suicidal people. I've worked with people with extreme gender dysphoria. I've worked with all sorts of alleged DSMs and diagnoses, although I'm not allegedly qualified according to the medical community on this earth. And I must now say so professionally and right here on YouTube that I am not qualified according to Earth diagnostics. A shaman is not about that. What we're doing is not trying to diagnose you or cure you. What we're trying to do is to get you to accept yourself and to stop being in resistance to the beautiful God essence within you that is innately good, innocent, sacred, and beautiful.
That's absolutely right. And it's funny when someone sends me an email and telling me I have PTSD, I have anxiety, I have this, I look at it as yes, though I would love to work with you. And that's exactly who I would love to work with, just give me extreme pain because I get it. I get exactly what it is. And again, I'm not qualified either in terms of medicine, but what you and I do is really, really powerful. And I'm not saying it replaces it, but it's definitely worth tapping into.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, someone is asking me how much homework or work will I give them daily, how many minutes and hours a day in the mentorship program. And what I will tell you is I've had students that are so deeply in their mastery that it's been about 20 minutes a day minimum. Yeah. If you can't dedicate 20 minutes a day, standardly of just basic meditation, and I will give you a specific meditation formula that works for you. So if you're unwilling to do that, chances are you probably don't want to work with me. But with that exception, that at minimum for me is about 20 minutes a day. I can't even remember. I gave you a lot of homework though, and you did it. How much was it for you?
But it depends on your nature too. I mean, I love the inner journey more than anything else. It's my passion in my life, right? But if it's not your passion, we can tailor it. Mm-hmm. And there's also different things for different people. So it's not always going to work. And that's why the beauty of working with Pamela and myself, it's tailored towards you. But you can't get around it. But guess what? It can be fun also. And you're going to start looking forward to it. Why? Because your reality is going to start changing. Mm-hmm. And that's all a reflection of what's happening inside. So it's great for our ego because our ego wants proof.
Yeah.
Well, show me it's working. And you will. You'll see your
Mhm.
life, doors will open. It'll be more harmonious. It'll just be shifted. And then you're going to want to do more and you'll want to invest more time. Because right now it's just the mind that was asking, how much time do I have to invest? But that's just your mind. That's not your heart,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And it's also not the master saying, here's what you do. And say you go do it and it's not working. You come back to your master and say, well, I did it. And these are the results or lack of results that occurred. And a true master or guru or elder in shamanism will say, okay, let's talk about that. And they may still tell you to do it, or they may cater it a bit to make it something that's more doable for you. You never know, but you will know that you will be able to question your teacher. You will be able to provide direct inquiry and find ways to open up your abilities, ways to integrate, ways to heal, when you're working with, Robina, that actually will work and will, it doesn't always have to be so treacherous and uncomfortable. Most of my students have really loved working with me, with the exception of maybe 2 who didn't want to meditate for 10 to 20 minutes. But even they said, I realize that's my particular block and I'm going to come back when my life is settled and I can do the work. But I haven't really found too many people, only those 2 that have come to me to say they didn't enjoy the program at all. Like, generally speaking, your gifts are going to open up and it's going to happen fast. That's something that happens a lot in my mentorship program, is that people go, whoa, this is so much is happening right now. And sometimes we even have to slow it down and cap it off for a bit and just sort of level things out just for emotional safety. That happens as well. And then we go into some core belief work, at which point I'd probably refer you to someone like Ravina or Jordan, or someone who is really, really initiated into a specific type of shamanism who can help you with that. Jordan, by the way, is very elemental in her work as well, and is really, really good at it. She does crystal dreaming shamanism. So you can find her. Yeah, you guys can find her over at Instagram. If you look up Truth Blooms with Jordan, you can find her there, and Google that and you'll find a lot of information as well. Let's look at some more of these questions here. Why do I cry when I sing? Because you're accessing a degree of innocence and grace that's overpowering the mind, and it causes instant vulnerability. You're crying because you feel safe to cry.
And I also find that when I chant or sing certain mantras, I cry, but I attribute it also to a release. Something in there got released also. So it could be that too. That happens to me a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it could be a release of something that's no longer serving you. And that feels like a breath of fresh air, like a big sigh,
Yep. And one thing I want to mention also that you've taught me and what I teach my clients is to operate in visualization. I teach them to operate in visualization all day long. And what you imagine in using that space of wonder is real. So I really try to teach that it is very real what you're imagining. You're not making it up. And so that's also something that, as soon as you tap into and clear a little bit of the fear and whatever's lurking in there, you'll realize, oh, so when you're talking, you can picture, like when you say, I'm going to go and get a coffee later, you picture that. And that's real. That's projecting a future self of you. These are not made up things. So I try to, have them practice that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, absolutely. Dorothy says she loves working with you. You should tell us a little more about that. We'd love to hear your experiences with her. A lot of my clients have come back and said they've had really powerful experiences with her. And my clients aren't necessarily the easiest. You guys aren't the easiest ones to work with. You're the ones with the hardest, and most challenging spiritual and emotional blocks that I've ever seen. And when I send you to her and you come back and you say these powerful things about how quickly your life changed, it really blesses me to be able to introduce her to the world and to share her with you. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, it's really funny because even a few years ago, I would never have imagined this. I was in the corporate world and I used to watch you on YouTube, but I would never imagine that one day I would be able to do this. So it's possible for anyone. And if anyone is having those feelings of, I think I could do that, or I want to do that, explore it with Pamela, explore it with me, explore it with both of us. It's, if you're getting that calling, you should, you know, go with it.
Oh, we're getting so many questions about drugs. Oh my goodness. Someone said, her sister went to a shaman and had to take mushrooms in order to see a past life because that's how the shaman worked. So they wanted to talk about elemental shamanism and does it use specific enhancements and why don't we use those specific enhancements? And again, both Robina and are what's called, we are what are called drug-free shamans. So we do not use psychotropic enhancements. We will not use mushrooms or ayahuasca, and we have not personally experienced that for ourselves either. So what that means is we have a deep qualification to be able to tap you into your highest and best records, and a deep connection to your guardians and ancestors, and a deep connection to yourself, to your own life contracts that help serve you now, which means that we don't really need to go backwards. We don't really need assistance from psychotropics to see or feel or know God, because God's in here. Yeah. We don't need an external circumstance to inhibit or prohibit or bring that forth either way, because drugs tend to inhibit. They don't always help.
It's true, but I also want to add that every time that someone told me about my past life, or even if I was to get a glimpse of it, how did that help me? How does that help you in the now? It's cool. It's definitely cool to say, oh, I had a past life with that person and now they're here. That's interesting, but it doesn't help ground me in the now. In fact, it keeps me in that other life that's not really in the past, that's actually happening in parallel, but it's taking me away from here. And I know that if I took mushrooms or ayahuasca or anything, it would lead me into another dimension, but I don't want to go anywhere. I want to stay here. And I've come here in this human incarnation for that purpose, to be grounded here and to realize the God within, using the elements, using connection with the higher self and your trust in yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting because you can access a lot of those realms simply by knowing your own divine codes. This is why I use source tones. This is why Robina likes to work with mantras, because the Vedas, Sanskrit, Gurmukhi, and many other languages are actually codes to activate your divine blueprint. So when we work with divine sound in this way, you don't need psychotropes to access, your higher self, to access messages from source, to access, and open your third eye. You don't need any of that. So what we're trying to do is to get you deeper in yourself so that you don't have to rely upon any external source, not even us, as the shamans and the teachers, to do this. We're trying to pull you into your mastery. So this is what the sound guru does.
Well, absolutely. And so some clients, they see me for 1 session, 2 sessions, some buy 4 or 5, but I don't necessarily want to see them after, because I don't want them to be dependent on me. The idea is for me to impart that wisdom to help open you up using the methods that I do, and for you to go on and carry on. So it's not to create dependence and anything like that,
Yeah, that's something that I found that many people have been dependent upon, particularly Kambo and Mother Ayahuasca, to continue to strip forth all those beliefs. And yes, Mother Ayahuasca will definitely do that. Yeah. And I've observed people as a medical intuitive, and I started out professionally reading the auric field and the chakra systems and everything that is beyond it. And yeah, Mother Ayahuasca does do that, but there are ways that are more powerful even, and more simple, and you don't have to go into the detox of it where you're physically detoxing in order to do this as well. It's a little harsh. Psychotropics can be a little harsh. Yeah. Another person asked me a question about mentorship, and I assume that it's applying for both myself and Robina's programs. And the question is, do we mentor people online and do we mentor them overseas? I do both, and I think that you do too. You do work with people in
Yeah,
both.
I put them online from all around the world. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. So you don't have to work with us in person. I
No.
generally do not work in person these days because the majority of my clients are across the world.
Yeah.
So, and I don't do any of the in-person work anymore, with the exception of at specific events, at retreats. You know, I'm going to a couple of them this year. One is in Sweden. So that's a lot of fun. You can Google Suna Senman for that. Suna, Suna Senman, Suna Senman. She's having a retreat this July, and both Jordan and myself will be there. You can, what else? Oh, this one's full, but yeah, I have a goddess retreat in October, and I'll be doing some readings there. I think it's almost full. You can contact Samantha O'Hearn to find out, Ohern. You can Google her, find her on my Facebook page. But yeah, we both do mentor people. You can find my mentorship program at PamelaErlin.com, and I work with people of all levels. I do suggest that you kind of talk to me when you've scheduled one, and email me so that we can get to know each other. Send a picture so that I can start kind of digging in before you schedule your first session. And keep in mind that with Robina as well, that it's really good, you know, to work one-on-one and to trust your shaman at all times, and trust your mentor at all times, you know, in that work.
Absolutely. And it's just as effective. You actually don't have to meet in person. I just use Zoom just like we're talking now, and it's perfect.
Yeah, I only plan on mentoring people for about a year to a year and a half from now. So for me, it's time to get in now, because readings stop on the 15th. I'm doing my final readings now. I've been doing readings and mentorship for 20 years now. And I'm done with readings. However, people keep asking me, do readings come up in my mentorship programs? And I want to let you know that they actually do, but they come in a way where if you ask something, your higher self is going to say, okay, this is how that's relevant, or actually this isn't relevant, and this is what you really need to know instead. So a lot of people do still get access to the Akash. They do still get a lot of question and answers, specifically about life purpose, mission, why they have certain illnesses, both emotionally and physically. They get a lot more than just readings. You're getting guidance towards what to do about the information that you get in a reading. So you're getting that plus in mentorship, and it is a commitment to yourself. So it's readings plus is the best way that I can describe my mentorship programs. And just
also
about everybody that works with me knows that.
the cool thing is also that that Pamela will teach you how to talk to your higher self, right? By this mentorship. So you don't necessarily have to see her over and over and over again. You can have little tune-up sessions, or mini mentorships and along the way. But like she was saying, the idea is not to be dependent. The idea is to do it yourself, because everyone has that ability. And it just requires a little bit of patience. That's all. Just the inner work every single day, trust and patience, and cleaning up your life a little bit too. So I haven't listened to music that's on the radio and that kind of stuff, or even watch TV in 3 years. That may be kind of unimaginable to people, but guess what? I understand frequency on a very deep level. And so there are things that you can do if you want to get on this journey and go really deep. And some of that involves cutting things out that you're used to.
Yeah. And I'm not anti-drugs either. I want to make that clear, that I'm not saying don't go get ayahuasca. I'm saying that I was born in such a way, and a lot of my students who managed to find me, there's a soul contract. There's a reason why you're pulled into mentorship with myself or someone like Rabina. If you feel really drawn to us right now, there's a reason for that. That likely has to do with contracts to work together, and contracts where we've had a lot of mastery with each other in other lifetimes as soul family members. So we're not really saying you can't go do that on your own time, but we're saying, okay, you can do that, and it's not going to be in our program specifically.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But there's nothing wrong with it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I personally have never done it in my life, and I'm not called to, but you can. You can,
You
it's not,
can.
yeah, you absolutely can.
I hear that combo can be a great reset. It's like a reset of the brain for people who are like having extreme problems with suicidal ideation and things of that nature. And I've had clients say that it really does work for them. If I were to try anything, it would be combo, but I'm likely not going to because I'm born in such a way that if I do those kind of things, my goodness, I see all of that clearly as it is. And you imagine how it could be unsafe for me to see much more than what I have been contracted to see and to know and to experience. Do you see what I mean?
I totally do. And I really love also working in the dream state.
Yeah.
Um, you can have there's so much that's there. It's unreal. And I know a lot of people are thinking, well, I don't remember my dream. You can remember your dream. And even if you don't think that there's not anything happening in there. There's certain invocations, there's certain things that you can do before you get to bed, in between waking and sleeping hours. There's certain things that you can do, and it really does work, and it can also deepen your journey. And that's something that I teach also.
Right. Well, I want to remind them one more time before we have to go where to find you.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's,
It's
go
oh,
ahead.
sorry.
Yeah. I'll
Um,
let,
you you can reach me on my website. So it's just robinadinsa.com. And then my Instagram is just my name, Robina_Dinsa. And I love Instagram actually, because I always post these videos and then I share it to Facebook. Again, it's just my name. So you can connect with me, and in any of those ways, or send me a quick message if you have any quick questions or anything like that. I always answer pretty much all of my messages. So I would love that.
wonderful. And you can find her there. And again, she's really, really, really done her work as an elemental shaman. So not a lot of people who have had the opportunity that I've actually chosen to interview in the mentorships so far. But it is a thing that I do, that when I feel really strongly led to pull that person into the world because I know they're ready, that is a part of mentorship program where we talk about at the end of the program, do you want to do that? Do you want to do this for a living? Are you committed to work with people? Are you ready to introduce me and to be introduced? Are you ready for this work? And if we both feel guided towards that, then you would get that opportunity to be introduced to my YouTube community if we both felt called and aligned towards that. So I've had a few people lined up on that list so far. So it's been a lot of fun, and a lot more people throughout the years that would have if I had done YouTube at that time. I'm rather new to YouTube. So I would have done it with a lot more mentees and students. And I'm really, really excited to work with a lot more people over the next year and a half. So you can find me at PamelaArolin.com if you're interested in working through a mentorship of connecting to your highest and best in your contracts, understanding purpose, connecting to your oneness, going deeper into your spiritual abilities if you choose. And whatever mentorship looks like for you, it's not just about opening your psychic abilities. I say that so many times in so many ways. However, it's about finding your highest and best in this incarnation, in this creative expression, bringing your oneness into your dualistic creative expressions and really honoring that in your body. So a lot of people, because I'm a big channel of Yeshua and the Christ consciousness, big fan of a lot of the oneness teachings, make kind of an assumption that I strictly will teach you about oneness. I'm going to teach you about what your higher self is coming through, and we're going to develop a plan together between your higher self and you and myself that could benefit you, that you're comfortable with. And that's how I work. And the mentorships can last for 3 months at minimum. It's once a month. It can last for 6 months or 13 months at the current maximum program. So there's 3 different programs that you can choose to work. And if you just choose the first one and get through 3 months, we sit down at the end of that 3 months and we decide together if you want to extend, and if you want to continue, if you want to go from that point on, or if you're ready for me to kick you out of the nest.
And the cool thing is you usually get a feeling right in the beginning, because I think when I started, you told me, you were like, no, it's only going to take about 3 sessions. And I thought, how's that possible? I need 13. I need to talk to you every week. And you were like, no. And after the first session, I remember you told me that you got a lot of it. And it was funny. I didn't need any more than 3 sessions. So it all depends.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I think we're going to go for now, unless we have any more questions. Let me check on it one more time. Oh, thank you, Morgan. Huh. Interesting stuff you guys are saying there. I hope that you find her as well. She's absolutely beautiful. And I can't wait to hear the feedback that you always come back and you always tell me about my students. You're like, this happened and that happened. And there's such beautiful stories. So I can't wait to hear about your journey with her. And I can assure you that it's going to be expansive. It's going to be whole. It's going to be beautiful, and it's going to return you to your highest and best, no matter what that looks like for you personally. So again, Robina Densa at robinadensa.com, ROBINADHINDSA.com. And on Instagram, you'll be able to get a lot more of a taste of her videos there. If you feel that you need a little bit more time to kind of make your decision and to connect with her, you can contact her there or contact her from her website. So Instagram is Robina_Densa, again, DHINDSA. Thank you for being with me today.
Thank
Such
you,
an
and thank
honor.
you for everything.
Thank you. Beautiful experience. Sat Nam.
That none to you.
We're going to go live off, turn live off so I can chat with you for a second. Bye, YouTube.